Hi everyone, my name is Digvijay Parmar and welcome back to my YouTube channel Pick Up Pencil. So as you can see in this slide that in today's video we are going to learn more about tokens in Java, or basically there are a set of entities or set of we can say them tokens or maybe the data values present in the Java. Those are really the concept which we really need to know if we want to learn the full-fledged programming. Because before creating a program, before dealing with the variables, methods, and class and scope, or all kind of calculation, you should be knowing that all these tokens or all these values in Java. Like in today's video, we'll be covering the literals, or they are also called constants in Java. And then we'll move on identifiers like the variables in a class. How do we actually declare the variable? Once we have the variable, how do we assign a value? And how, of course, we initialize those variables like static and dynamic initialization. Then we'll move ahead and talk about the operators, different kind of operators, and then keywords in Java, punctuators, and separators. So basically, we are going to learn about the concepts, as well as in the editor, I will be showing you guys like how really you write them in Java, because ultimately you'll be using all these tokens, all these values in a programming. So I'll show you via the programming how actually we type it, so that it is very clear in order to understand them. Okay, so let's move on without a further ado. So first one we are trying to learn here is the Java literals, or it's also called Java constant. So here I have just a plain class here, token demo, and everything I have created various sections in this class already. Those are right now commented, and we'll write the piece of code or piece of lines here so that it's clear and I don't have to type much, so that we can move faster. So the first topic we are going to take about talk here is the literals or the constants in Java. So remember, students, so constants in Java, as the name suggests, constant means something that is constant. Constant, something is not going to change throughout this whole program. So there are some variables or some values, those are not going to change throughout the program. We can put them into the constants, or they are called as a constant. Okay, so what all type of those constants can be, which may not change throughout the program? Those can be integer constant, those can be character constant, those can be string constant, boolean constant, and null constant. So one by one, I'm gonna write a line here via program, via code, so that it's very clear. So let me just go ahead and create integer constant. So we declare integer by int and say any value. Okay, test int. Okay, and I am just assigning it a value 50. So if I know that this test int is not going to change anything throughout the program, it's going to be fixed. So that's why I've given it a value 50. That means it's a test int constant. It's a literal because I have already assigned a value to it. This is fixed, right? So similarly, I'm done with the integer constant. Character constant. So character, it's start with string because it's a kind of string, but char, okay, and I can say or I can say just test char. So it will just, if I know throughout the program there is a character I want to say X all the time, test char is X. If I know this test char value is not going to change throughout the program, I can give it a hard-coded value or a predefined value that is not going to change, is X. So that's how I can write a character constant named test char. So string, okay. So if I say string or anything, right, name equals to Digvijay Parmar. So if I know this name is not going to change throughout the program, I can create a string constant. Okay, now let's move on to Boolean, quickly move on to, as these are the very simple concepts, let's move on to Boolean uh, literals. So if I say boolean, right, something uh, is is okay, is this June? Okay, month. You can be creative about giving a variable name. So I can say true, right? So if I know this program, there is something not going to change, I can just give it a constant. And something is null, so I can say a string again, right? Or I can give any variable, right? String or boolean for null. And if I say null value, value equals to null. So what I'm trying to say here, if any of these data types, integer, string, boolean, if there are some variables, those are not going to change throughout the program, I can put them as a literals or a constant. So this is how we define those constants in any program. Okay, so we are clear on constants. So let's move on the variables now, or the identifiers. So basically, identifiers or variables are nothing but these, all what we just learned here. These are nothing but the variables already, right? Because in my previous videos, I've also explained, whenever you create a class, you declare a bunch of data members. So these are the data members. So variables are nothing but, you can call them data members as well, data members, so that you guys don't get confused, right? So these are nothing but already the variable, right? And there are certain ways by which we can declare a variables. So this is the class, and I can say nothing but, I'm just doing the same thing, string test variable, okay, equals to test, anything. So this is nothing but I have just created a variable, or I can just say a string first name. Yeah. So here, so now by writing this variable, like, we have come to a point of declaration. How do we actually declare a variable in a programming language like Java? So if we see the syntax for declaring any variable is nothing but, first we see the data type, which is nothing but the string. Then we put the space. We have put that space here, and then we give the variable name. So this variable name can be anything. Right now I chose first name, right? And it can be, let me just declare another variable here, right? It is just a variable declaration. I say last name, right? So I have just declared two variables here. So this declaration, whatever is written here, the declaration of variable goes like this, right? So now, since right now we have just declared the variable, let's move ahead and talk about the assignments. How do we really do assignment in Java? So far we have just declared a variable here. So let's move ahead and give it an assignment, right? So what I'm going to I'm just going to copy these two one here, because these are just a declaration, and let me show you an example of assignment. So right now, this is just an empty variable here. This is just the initialize. This is a very initialize phase. If I want to go to the initialization phase or give it an initialization, I will say first name equals to Dickpicture, right? And so right now it's, because it's a duplicate here, let me comment on the top one. So string first name equals to Dickpicture. So right in the upper example, we have seen, we have just declared the variable like this, right? But now what we are going to do is, we are going to do initialization. So initialization, only the right hand side part is changing, right? If you see, this is the same, but we have to give a value. So as soon as we give some value to our variable, it becomes a phase of initialization, right? And similarly, I can do with this last name again equals to Parmar. So this is an example of initialization. So now initialization is again, as per our slide, what we are covering here. Initialization goes static initialization and the dynamic initialization. Okay, so let's understand this. The static initialization means we already know the value here, right? We have defined the values. We have initialized a variable's value at the compile time or at while we are coding it, right? But there could be some scenarios where we do not know the exact value of a variable, but when the program gets executed and at the runtime, when Java is running the program, Java will calculate that value, right? So this is a part of just the initial, this is example of static initialization. Or I can say, if I say int, okay, int1 equals to 10. If I say here, right, this is an integer 1 and I have given a value is 10. So this is nothing but a static initialization. I'm initializing int1 with 10 value, right? But let's suppose there is another int here, int2 equals to 20, right? So these are the example of static initialization. Let's suppose there is third integer here, int, okay, sum, right? And I say int1 plus int2. Now see the difference here. These are the int1, int2. These has the value at the time of I'm coding. We are coding, so we know. So that's why it's a static initialization. But if I say this int sum, the sum of this int1 and int2, that means the values on this sum variable as a result of int1 plus int2 will be assigned at the time of runtime. That means at the time when this program get executed. So that is what it is called as dynamic initialization. So you just have to remember this thing. While coding, whatever we give a fixed value, that is called static initialization, or any values that gets assigned to the variable at the runtime when programs get executed is called dynamic initialization. Okay, so now let's quickly move on to the next topic here, that is nothing but the operators. So basically in Java, operators performs a logical and arithmetic operation, right? So arithmetic operations. So the plus one, we have just seen the exam. We have just, saw the example of arithmetic operation here, right? Already in our case. So what it is doing plus. So it is just doing a arithmetic operation here. So this is the arithmetic, like the plus, or we can just put the minus, or we can just put the star, that means multiplication, or we can put the division. So all these are the part of operators. So these plus, minus, divide, and multiply, these are the part of arithmetical operators. Now the second thing is a relational operator, right? So we have here int1 and int2 already, right? So let's try to make an example here. Okay, int1 and int2. So if I say somewhere, right? If I have a if condition somewhere in my program, and if I say if int1 is greater than int2, okay, and then do something like this. So if int1 and int2 is greater than something, then do something, right? So that is why we are going to see this one here, this one. So if it is greater than 1 and greater than 2, if it is, so that means at this line it is going to check whether it is greater or less than. So since we can also do like this, right, whether it is greater than or less than, or if we can say, right, we can say if anything, right? We can say if, command C, if int tester equals to int 2, right? So if we do the operator that is checking if int 1 is greater than int 2 or less than or equal to, so those are called relational operators, right? And then third one is logical operators. So and or. So basically, whenever we write a if condition, right? Whenever we go and write an if condition, so if condition, so right now this is showing me error because all the time these if conditions are written to be inside a method, right? So right now we do not have method, but let's understand the concept here. So this is how the if condition will be. So we can say condition 1 and condition 2. So if anywhere in our program we have like if condition and then condition 1 and condition 2, so and operator means in order to execute a code inside this block, both conditions has to be matched. So that is why we use and operators, and that's called logical operator. And if I replace this and with the or, that means any one of these conditions if matches, then this piece of code inside this block gets executed. So right now, both of these are the part of logical operators in Java. Okay, so now let's move on next topic, which is keywords. So keywords is fairly simple topic in Java. So we have lot many words or keywords that is defined by Java in order to let us program. So like class, system, public. If we see this class, right? We write public class. So why do we write public class? Because Java wants us to create a class like this. If I say public one, right, and something other than public, it will fail, right? So that means some of the words that are preserved by Java and we write them so that we can write a program, those are called the keywords, and those are defined by Java like the programming language, right? So let's move on the next topic, which is punctuator. So punctuator is again a very quick and simple topic. Sign used as a special character in Java, like star, like question mark, dot, and semicolon. So semicolon we have everywhere seeing, right? This is the semicolon here at the end. So semicolon means the statement is terminated, and after this, the next statement can be used. So dot, if we see, right, system dot out dot println, we always write like this, right? So this dot is nothing but a punctuator. So like that. So okay, the next one is the separator. So separator is something that is again a useful a special character in Java that creates a boundary or separate some stuff. So if we see, right, let's take an example of right here. Public, we always talk about this public static void main, right? So if we say main is a method, and then these arguments are separated through the parentheses. All the methods name will have these parentheses. And if we see these curly braces are again the separator. These are separating the boundaries of the method. So anything goes inside these two curly braces, that is the area of the method main. And if we see, this is nothing. These curly braces are the class curly braces, right? So that is how basically we use different kind of separators in Java. So in today's lesson, so we wanted to cover up these special tokens or the values in Java. In the next topic, we are going to learn about the data types in detail, like the string data type, integer data type, class data type. So we have already talked about them over here, but we are going to learn more on data types in the next video. So that's it for today, and if you enjoyed watching these videos, please like, share, and subscribe my channel, which is Pick Up Pencil. And I hope to meet you guys in the next session. Thank you. Take care.